Hey guys, how's it going? Emily from The Joy of Coding here, and I am super excited to talk to you today. So you might have noticed that we've had a little bit of radio silence in the group lately, and that's because I actually had a baby. And so I had to pull back just a little bit. So if you've noticed that there weren't a lot of lives lately, I delivered our fifth baby. It was a boy on September 22nd. And so we're back. He's a month old. And so as soon as I could, I stepped back into it and was working on everything. Oh dear, my Facebook feed just went sideways. So I'm trying to rotate it back. Okay, well, I think you guys can see me. I just see me sideways. Awesome. So welcome today. Okay. Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for joining in. We have a super important topic today that we're going to be talking about, and that's imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and feeling like you belong, that you deserve to be a software developer. Like everybody on the planet faces this, and developers are no different. And what I'll do today is kind of talk to you a little bit about my journey and how I progressed on that and through that. And then I can't wait to hear from you guys on some of the challenges you're facing. And then I'm going to give you some action steps. Before we leave today, I'm going to talk about, okay, how can we actually overcome that fear so that we can move forward and live our best lives and become the six-figure software developers of our dreams? Because I can tell you, I've worked with hundreds of students, and it doesn't matter how brilliant they are. Almost everyone I've worked with has battled some amount of fear and imposter syndrome. And so I'm just so excited for you guys to join us today and for us to talk more deeply about that. And so, I guess I'll start a little bit with my story. And just so you know, I'm Emily from The Joy of Coding. I run an academy where I help people overcome, they learn how to code and become six-figure software developers, and we have guaranteed internships is one of the things that we work on there. And so many students, I've been talking about them lately, like, gosh, I don't feel like I can do this. I feel so humbled by not knowing and learning, and that's just part of the process. So to tell you a little bit about myself and my story through this, so I actually had imposter syndrome and self-doubt about my abilities as a coder so bad, I spent 20 years in academia. No joke. I spent a really long time hiding in the university setting because I didn't feel comfortable stepping out into the real world. And I don't want that to happen for you guys. Hey, how's it going, guys? Great to see you. So, it took me 6 years to learn to code. Full disclosure, it totally doesn't have to, by the way. I spent 6 years learning how to code, started in high school, went to college and got a BS and CS, and still didn't know how to code. Hey Arthur, how's it going, guys? Still couldn't learn how to code, even though I had a 4.0. It wasn't like I didn't do the work that the college had provided for me. It's just they didn't know how to train software developers. So it's like, okay, well, let me try more again. More must be better, right? Let me go get my master's. And also I was afraid. Like the reason why I didn't go get a job after my bachelor's in computer science is because I was afraid that I wouldn't succeed, that someone would figure out I'm a fraud, that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? There we go. Imposter syndrome. If you hear yourself saying these kinds of words to yourself, like I can't do it, who do I think I am? Like red flag, this is self-doubt rearing its head. And again, we want to shut this down as quickly as possible because it's going to keep us in our box where we are right now. And we don't want to be there. We want to be six-figure software developers. And so I went and I got my master's degree in computer science, and they didn't teach me how to code either, but eventually I was able to teach myself. It just became a pressure cooker that was really painful, right? Like I didn't get any more support in a college degree, in my master's degree than I did in my college degree. But what I did get was assignments that were way beyond my current abilities. And it was really like this pressure cooker, do or die. Either I learn to code or I fail and flunk out of grad school. Oh my goodness. Like I had a 4.0 my last 2 years of college. Like I'm a high achiever. Like failure is not an option. So I figured it out. And I remember the moment when it clicked and I was just like, oh, that's how it works. And it just made sense to me. And it wasn't like I knew in this moment all this more knowledge. It's just that at that moment, everything came together and I realized that I was enough, that I could do it, that I actually understood how things worked well enough to solve the problem. And so that's what I do in helping others learn how to code right? Is we're looking for that spark, for that insight that to help us get there so that we also feel, you know, we have that confidence in ourselves and our technical abilities. You are perfectly capable of doing it, but the challenge is getting to where you see it and you can demonstrate that to others, because that's where you get those six-figure software developer jobs. Hey, Pedro, welcome, welcome. Great to see you. So it took me a really long time to get comfortable with technology, way longer than it needed to. Now I help students. We work on becoming six-figure software developers in 6 months, so it doesn't have to take forever. And I try to fast track for everyone. You know, what is that simplest path? But it took me a really long time, and I didn't feel comfortable. So if anybody is willing to share their, if you have any self-doubt, if you're willing to share any stories, I would love to hear them, because I really, really like to kind of, speak to that and kind of share their similarities that we all have. I think Arthur has a comment. So I'm sorry, I'm tilting my head sideways because my phone rotated on me. I guess I could like rotate it back this way, but then I think you guys are going to be rotated back. Yeah, see, I think I'm sideways. How do you know you're enough? Oh, I love this question. Okay, I have a quick question for you guys. Am I sideways for you? Who finds me sideways? I don't know. Just let me know on the chat. I'm going to try this for a minute. If I'm sideways, I guess I could look on the Facebook Live and see if I'm sideways. But I want to be right side up for you guys. Oh, I'm sideways. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm just going to tilt my head. I'm sideways. Thanks, guys. Okay. Yep, I was concerned about that. So my phone is malfunctioning. Okay. Thanks, guys. I love it. So just don't mind me as I turn my head sideways to look at your comments. Okay. Now now I'm not sideways, I hope, for you guys. Okay, moving my screen. Sorry. No. So I rotated. I think this will be good. Yeah, I was trying to view the thing. Okay. As long as I'm not sideways. Okay, good. I'm not sideways anymore. Excellent. I brought up the broadcast over here. Thanks for your patience, guys. So Arthur, I love this question. How do you know you're in, like, what was it? How do you know you're enough, right? How do you know when you're enough? And this is such a challenging question. It's so, so good, because we don't always feel it, but if we're placed in a situation, we probably already are enough. We just don't see it yet. Right? We might not see it yet, but we probably have enough. I can give you a really mundane example. I've been, weight loss has always been a challenge for me, right? Like, I've had 5 babies, I gain weight, I lose weight. And so I wanted to find a low calorie drink that I enjoyed that was sweet to replace soda. Okay. So I go to the store and I shop around, I look around, and I try a bunch of options, and none of them are very good and I don't like them. And then I look at home and I realize, oh, I had these really low calorie nutritious drinks that I actually enjoy sitting over there that I just didn't know about. Right? And so I already had everything I needed. And so so a lot of times we are already enough. We just don't see it. So one of the things that I work on with students, and this is something I've had to work on, this is where that insight, that click for me happened, where I was just like, oh, I get it. It was being comfortable with uncertainty. Right? And so this might be a little bit, seem like a sidestep, like, wait a minute, we're talking about imposter syndrome and self-doubt. How do I feel about uncertainty? But if you're uncertain about the path you're on, you may doubt your ability to execute that path. So if you're comfortable with not knowing, with uncertainty, then you can move forward and not be afraid about it. Right? So if you assume, okay, I can contribute here. Now, you might not be able to contribute. It might not be just you alone, right? Sometimes we need help. Sometimes it benefits to have other people. And in fact, that's why in the Joy of Coding, what we do is we have our six-figure software developer mentors. Kyler's one of them. He was in for a little bit. And so, there are experts that you can go to. So it's not always about knowing the answer, but knowing how to get it. And that's why inside this Facebook group and the Joy of Coding Academy, we focus so much on the process, right? And having confidence in your ability to execute the process. Not that you have to feel that you have the burden of knowing all the answers, but that you know a path to get there that you can follow consistently, and you can identify your next step, where at like whatever or whomever that might be involved in that step. So, right, one step might be Googling, right? Google's a great place, but Google doesn't talk back, right? Google doesn't open up a dialogue of like, hey, why is it this way, right? So Google is great, but it has its limits. And so that's where a person, a coach, a guide, a mentor can be so impactful and helpful there, right? Because you can actually ask them questions. Like even in this environment, I know I'm speaking and you guys can type back, but we have a dialogue, right? Like you can actually ask a question and I can change what I'm saying in response to that, in response to you, and give you faster, more accurate knowledge. Is going to help you move forward more effectively because we're actually engaged in a conversation. And so that would be my recommendation. We are enough. We might not see it. We might have doubts about being enough, but we are enough. Awesome, Kyler. So true. The more experience you have, the more you get comfortable with uncertainty, experience building. Yes, exactly. Things gives you the confidence you need to know you can figure things out. Yes, Kyler, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that. I completely agree. And I saw it all the time in my students. I was a university professor for 10 years. And when we were working together, there'd be this huge difference between students before working on an actual project and after. And when I say actual project, I don't mean like a classroom toy activity where somebody, like the professor, cooked up an example and they worked on a project. No. We want actual real world projects. So I would have students actually working for clients, right? And in the Joy of Coding Academy, we actually have them working for paying clients, which is even better. And I also saw students going on internships and getting paid and compensated for their technical expertise. And even though they didn't actually necessarily grow in their technical abilities, the change in having actually done something, taken their abilities, used them to create impact in the world, like it was this huge difference. The light bulb, right? That light bulb I was talking about that happened for me, that I'm trying to help others, create for themselves, right? That happened for them. And that's really what you want, right? You want to act. The reason we're learning to code, right? We don't want to just learn to code up here, right? We want to do something in the world and create software and make change happen. And so it is so important. I think I'm totally diving in to my solutions for imposter syndrome and self-doubt. Kyler, thank you for kickstarting that discussion. Is doing it, like actually doing it. And that can be a little scary, right? I'm performance anxiety, right? So I've been a professor. I'm an educator through and through. I can't turn it off, but I'm also a vocalist. So, I'm a musician and my main instrument is singing. And performance anxiety is something I've dealt with, throughout my life. I don't have as much as others. There's some people I know that have more performance anxiety, but anytime we do something new, this is where the self-doubt and imposter syndrome kicks in. It's in this performance anxiety of, will I perform? Will I do my best work? And the ironic thing is by focusing on our ability to do well, distracts us from actually doing a good job, right? Like if we let our thoughts about ourselves go and we just focus on, okay, what's the next step? And you just take yourself out of it, like you make it this objective experience, if you can, right, to the extent that you can, you will do a better job, because then 100% of your focus can be on, or more of your focus can be on solving the problem, not worrying about your ability to do so. Now, I don't know. Let me know if that resonates with you guys. If you think that, I'm going to see what questions we got from Kyler. Got to drop for work. Oh, thanks, Kyler. Thank you so much. Yeah, and please feel free to tag Kyler in anything you need. He's awesome. He's super helpful. He works full-time as a software developer. Is overconfidence something that should be avoided? Gosh, such good questions, right? It's about balance. So Arthur asked an amazing question about overconfidence. So typically the folks that I have worked with and resonated with tend to fall into the underconfidence category. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. There are those that are overconfident. Like, I remember when I was in college, I would walk into a room, I'd be the only woman. So, okay, there we go. Already feeling uncomfortable and self-conscious. And then there'd be these guys, because I was the only woman in the room, there'd be these guys that just they were know-it-alls. They knew everything. I'm sure you guys have seen someone in your life that's like this know-it-all. But what I realized later on, gradually, as I got more knowledgeable, was that they didn't know more. They just had more confidence, right? So what we want to do, I think, is find that balance, right? We don't want to necessarily diminish anyone else's knowledge or learning. I think that's what can sometimes happen with that like know-it-all attitude, that someone is projecting that they know more than others in the room when really they have confidence in their knowledge. So we want to find like that balance in the middle, right? Where we recognize that we have worth and we have value and we have something to contribute. Otherwise we wouldn't be here, right? If we were in that room, we must have something to contribute there. Like that's how the universe kind of works and shapes us. And so, we don't want to diminish and think that others know less, but we want to appreciate the value of everyone in the room. And so it's about being in alignment in that centered space between overconfidence and underconfidence, right? Like we don't want to be on either side. We really want to be right in the middle. That's where like true, the kind of true vision lies. Let's see. Yeah, I call the Googles. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and really anyone can Google anything, right? So straight knowledge isn't necessarily, of as much value as it used to be. It's really about contextualizing it, and can you answer like pros and cons? And that's actually what I usually emphasize when working with my students. Is it's never about right or wrong, or like, oh, you should do agile and not waterfall as a software development process. It's about, well, when are those appropriate? And that is harder to Google. This is why that human conversation with someone who's experienced in coaching this is so valuable, because they can actually tell you those nuances. Google isn't very good with nuance unless someone has sat down and wrote an amazing blog post about it, right? And then you get that, their perspective, or if there's a conversation about it. But that's why like we're asking questions and working with people, with a mentor is so, so valuable. These are awesome questions. Awesome questions. So I agree. Like we want to find that balancing point. And I don't think you can ever be too confident in yourself. Right? I think you can be where the mistake happens is in assuming that the others around you don't have something to contribute. So being confident, but humble enough to hear what is coming at you in the world, right? Like that's what we want to, keep in mind there, I think. So yeah, keep these questions coming. They're awesome. They're so, so great. And if anyone has any stories or shares you want to make about imposter syndrome and overcoming it, like please don't hesitate to post. I would love to hear your stories, love to share on that, because it is definitely something I've battled for a really, really long time. Now, I did promise that we would share ways of overcoming imposter syndrome and self-doubt and recognizing that we are enough and that we deserve success, that we deserve to be that six-figure software developer. And in fact, if you're here and you're thinking about becoming a six-figure software developer, I would argue that you have an obligation to do so, that there's a reason that you're being led here, that you have a meaningful contribution to make, and you're shortchanging the people that will benefit from the software that you'll create by not learning it, right? I don't say this to stress you, but out of love, to keep going and persevere and not let that self-doubt beat you, because you can totally do it, right? It's about, where do you want to make your voice heard? Like, how do you want to contribute in this space? Awesome. I love it. So, so we know the imposter syndrome, self-doubt, it's totally out there in everything, not just software development, it's in life, right? But okay, how do we want to overcome it? What do we want to do to take that next step? And there's actually two things that we can do. And I've been experiencing both of them this week, which is why I just knew it was time for a live on this. So one of the things we already mentioned, Kyler had mentioned it before, is doing. Like, as hard as it is, do it. Okay, so if you're so overwhelmed with self-doubt and lack of confidence that you can't do it, what are our options? Well, one is lowering the bar, right? Can you make the bar easier for you to jump over? Like if you try to go here and I've been in a situation where I knew I needed to go a certain direction and I wanted to go as fast as possible. And then I got to the edge of that decision. It was actually leaving my job with no safety net. So kind of high stakes as the primary breadwinner of my family, with children and a spouse that depended on my income to provide a roof over our head and food on the table. Like this was like no joke. It was very high stakes for me. So I got to the edge. I recently left my job just a couple months ago. This is years before. I got to the edge and I was trying to tell my job, no, I'm not coming back. and I couldn't do it. And I was miserable with myself. I was beating myself up needlessly, but I was beating myself up for not being able to do it. But really, to be honest, it wasn't a smart move because I had no safety net, right? Like, so the right choice in that instance was to work towards being able to leave my job. So I was having some self-doubt there. So I lowered the bar. I started a business. I created income to support my family and savings. And then I stepped away. And then it was easy and natural. And I was having a baby and it didn't matter. I was fine. I was perfectly secure. So like lowering the bar can help. Also, potentially taking responsibility can help, right? If you're the type of person that doesn't want to disappoint people that are depending on you, increasing your responsibility can also help, right? Like so you can go either way. You can raise the stakes or you can lower the bar, right? And it'll be up to you to decide in your moment what is the right choice for you and where you are. You can also work with a coach and get support, right? Like that's how a lot of people, do that in sports. Like there's always performance anxiety in sports, in art, in any kind of creative endeavor, there can be performance anxiety. And we work with coaches that can help and mentors that help build us up. In the beginning of our lives, hopefully that's our parents or our family. It might not be. As we get older, it may also be our friends, but and our coworkers, but having that support system in place. And so that's something we really value inside the Joy of Coding Academy, is supporting all of our learners in that, providing that mentorship and that support and be like, hey, you're ready. Because when you're with somebody, it's not just a matter of having someone say, hey, did you do the work today? Right? Anybody could do that. But having someone who's worked with others, who's seen them at many, many points and seen them graduate to become six-figure software developers, and to know that they're saying, hey, I think you're ready for this next step. Why don't you take it? Right? That vote of confidence, right? You're borrowing their confidence to help boost yours, right? Like, well, okay, well, they say I can. I don't know if I can, but okay, I'm going to trust them. I'm going to go with it, right? So that can really, really help. And building those habits and accountability in place. The coach will help all of those things. So those are all the doing things, right? We can lower the bar, we can raise the stakes, and we can get, coach, find a mentor and support. Those are all the things for doing. But there's something else that we can do that I found super, super important. It seems subtle, but I just found this for myself this week, so I wanted to make sure to share it with you guys. And that's actually deciding. So that it's deciding that you're doing this thing. I am going to become a six-figure software developer, at least until you choose that that's not what you want anymore, right? But like, for example, I can say that I want to lose weight, and then I'm going to go start eating ice cream every day and Coke every day. Okay, something's not in alignment, right? My actions aren't aligned with what I say I want. So I need to decide and then align my actions with it, and not allow distractions to, sway me another way. So if I decide, hey, I'm becoming a six-figure software developer, that I'm going to commit to taking consistent action. Now, that doesn't mean that life can't happen and get in the way sometimes, but it's our job to recognize, I'm getting distracted from my major goal, which is becoming a six-figure software developer. Let me pull back. Okay, what can I change? What can I do differently to help me get there faster, right? Or to get there. And so, yes, deciding is really, really important. And if you notice yourself, having a situation where you keep getting pulled, it is worth a thoughtful conversation with yourself, an internal conversation of, well, is this something I truly want? Because when we're not meeting our goals, it could be the goal is off target, and it's not truly what we want, right? Or it could be it's what we want, but we're allowing ourselves to get distracted because we have self-doubt, right? Like it's hard to know. And the only way we know is by doing and taking those steps forward and working on it. So, if that describes where you are, definitely examine, how you feel, what kind of words you're using, right? Are they indicating self-doubt, right? So that maybe you're not moving forward because you don't doubt your ability to succeed. Or is it's not really what you want? Like, if you don't want to spend time doing it, maybe it's not in alignment with who you are and what you're really trying to achieve. So, right. But if you keep thinking like, oh, this is the most fun I've had, I really love this. I love that vision of that remote software developer job, and getting paid what I'm worth, that six-figure salary with upward movement. I love working on this stuff. Okay, well then that's telling you that maybe it's self-doubt you need to overcome and fear versus, gosh, I just don't feel like doing this. This is boring. This is lame. I hate this, right? Like, okay, these are all like signals that maybe this isn't the right, topic for you, the right area for you to invest your time in. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's the other key piece of this, is not judging where we are or how we're feeling, and just letting that go. All right, so arth wrestling. Again, my phone malfunctioned if you're tuning in, so I have to turn sideways to read the comments. Coding isn't something that you should see as a solo sport. Yes. It's about developing with other developers and coding collaboratively. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Arthur. Yes, absolutely. And that's really what differentiates those six-figure software developers from the entry levels, is that ability to collaborate on a team. And learning that is something that, again, you can Google it, but I think when you live it, you really, really see it. You see it differently. Like, software is totally collaborative. It's not just solo, but it's collaborative in a bounded way, where it's not like meetings all day long. You get plenty of solo mental work time, but you are working with others, because the software systems we create these days are way too big for any one person to tackle alone. And it doesn't make sense to do that. It's great for starting things, but if you actually want to create software that, you know, people are going to actually use, it does have to be, it's done best in a team environment for sure. Pedro, yes. You know, you let other things together with his job and family distract you. Yes, Pedro, thank you so much for sharing. Exactly. I get it. I am so easily distracted. I am like shiny object syndrome left and right. And it's totally just an excuse to distract me from my fear of whatever I'm trying to do next. For sure. And I recognized, you know, I think it was about a year ago, that I had been living in fear, not only of failure, but also of success. Talk about a recipe to never move anywhere and to always be miserable. I was both afraid of my success as well as my failure. So I was like stuck in this box. So now I'm stepping out of that. I'm trying to recognize that more frequently and move forward in that. And so here I am today, right? Like, talking to you guys about this. And so I'm glad you guys can learn from that experience. You don't have to repeat all those things, and you can move forward, because I know you're all totally capable developers. And yes, we all have more to learn. There's always more we can learn, but trying to be strategic about it and not learn everything, and just learn what we need to move forward, because I can bet you there's going to be a path forward. Whatever you're trying to do, there's going to be that path you can follow to get where you're trying to go, to become that six-figure software developer in as short a time as makes sense for you. Awesome. If you have any other questions, I know I want to be respectful of your time. And I know inside the Joy of Coding Academy, we started up these coding parties where we kind of like code together, and one of those is starting soon. So I don't want to overstep for anyone that's switching over to that inside the Joy of Coding Academy. So, you know, if you have any questions on this topic, I would absolutely love to hear them. Ooh, good. And I see another one from Arthur. I will absolutely answer. But if you do have any other questions after the live that you ask, we'll be checking in the group all day, like all week long. Just post, and we're happy to engage on that and help get you answers to move forward. What is your method to avoid overwhelm? Ooh, so good. So actually, I realized one of the things that I do really, really well is simplifying. That is one of my methods that I use to add value, is I simplify. So on the flip side, I get overwhelmed really easily because I need everything simple. So, but I know to simplify, I do have to at least process the complex and make it simple. And so that is more challenging for me sometimes. So if I find myself getting overwhelmed, that's where I'm starting to lower the bar. And I'm like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, let me simplify. Like, what can I get rid of? What is unnecessary? Do I really need to be doing this right now? But then usually I need to do something. So like, let's say I needed to fix a bug in a software system, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much I could potentially learn. The question I ask that works really well for me is, who would make this easy? Or what would make this easy? Oh, well, okay, I'll try Google first, because that doesn't that doesn't require reaching out to anybody. But then I'll try and find someone if I'm really overwhelmed. It could just be also that I need to kind of focus more. One of the tools I use specifically in coding is to focus on the solution, not the problem. Because sometimes the problem is our own self-doubt of our ability to do it, right? So if I'm focused on, I can't do this, I'm not going to see the solution, because I'm going to be too focused on the problem, not the solution. So trying to put blinders on the problem and really focus on, well, what are viable solutions, and forcing myself into that space helps me avoid overwhelm. And reducing what I think I have to do really, really helps. Like, what can I do less? I focus on the process, because the process is always a much smaller, simpler thing than all of the details of the steps. So I'll get overwhelmed in the details. I'll get overwhelmed by like how long the path seems until I get there. But if I focus on the process, well, the first thing I need to do is this step. And then I let the rest of it go and I don't think about it and I just focus on this step. So really, I think in problem solving for technical coding, it's really about focusing on your current step and not worrying about anything else, your ability to do it, what's happening next, what's down the road, you know, what people will think of this, like just focusing on like, what's the solution. I do that actually in coding, in reading code, where I just like, okay, what's happening in this moment in the code, right? Like as I walk through a for loop and unroll it and like, can I predict what it does? Like I'll literally just step by step walk through. And so keeping those blinders on is really what I do to try and overcome overwhelm. Awesome. Great questions. Personal comment. Learn to say no. Yes. Thank you, Kristen. Yes, absolutely. I know Kyler, I think, has probably mentioned that too. And that is something I've definitely been learning. Learning to say no. Absolutely. And thinking that you don't have to do it all, right? That it doesn't all have to rest on your shoulders. That's the idea of like Googling, going to someone else, right? Allowing yourself to ask questions of people that might be able to point you on the path, whether they can answer it or they know someone who can. And that's why the rule I have inside the Joy of Coding Academy is if you work on something and don't make progress for an hour, stop and reach out, because clearly where you are right now is not yet where you need to be to solve the problem, because actually bugs are always asking us to step forward, to grow, because by definition, if you see a bug, you created it, you can't solve it until you up-level yourself to the type of person that wouldn't make that same mistake and wouldn't make that bug. And so we're always enough. But, you know, there may be additional information that we need from others to help us see how we can solve it, how we can do that next step. Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Great. Thanks so much for your questions, Arthur. Yes. So our coding party is on its way. So I'm going to wind down. But if you do have any other questions, again, please don't hesitate to reach out inside the group. We love supporting you, love supporting those that are looking to become six-figure software developers. And again, I'm Emily from the Joy of Coding, signing off. If you have any questions or you want to know more about the Joy of Coding Academy and how we can help you become a six-figure software developer in 6 months, hey, just reach out to me. You know how to reach me. All right. Have a great day, guys. Take care.